Joaquin El Chapo Guzman was born in a small rural village in Sinaloa, Mexico, where poverty shaped his early life and forced him into survival mode from a very young age. Growing up in harsh conditions, he quickly became involved in the drug trade, initially working with local growers before moving into larger trafficking operations. Over time, he developed a reputation not just for being fearless, but for being highly intelligent and strategic. Unlike many criminals who relied purely on violence, El Chapo understood logistics, routes, and supply chains. He played a key role in building the Sinaloa cartel into one of the most powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world, controlling massive flows of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and marijuana into the United States and beyond. What truly set El Chapo apart was his innovation. He engineered underground tunnels across the US-Mexico border that were equipped with ventilation systems, lighting, and even rail carts, allowing drugs to be transported in massive quantities without detection. These tunnels gave his cartel a major advantage over rivals and made it extremely difficult for law enforcement to track his operations. However, his empire was also built on violence. He ordered killings of rivals, informants, and even members of his own organization if they were suspected of betrayal. Fear was a tool he used effectively to maintain loyalty and control. El Chapo became globally famous not just for his power, but for his daring prison escapes. In 2001, he escaped from a maximum security prison hidden inside a laundry cart. And in 2015, he escaped again through a sophisticated tunnel built directly into his prison cell. These escapes cemented his reputation as nearly untouchable. However, his luck eventually ran out when he was captured in 2016 and extradited to the United States, where he was sentenced to life in prison. Despite his imprisonment, the Sinaloa cartel remains powerful, and his legacy continues to influence the global drug trade. Pablo Escobar was born in 1949 in Colombia and rose to become one of the most powerful and feared drug lords in history. Starting from small-time criminal activities, such as smuggling and theft, Escobar quickly moved into the cocaine trade, which was rapidly expanding during the 1970s. He founded the Medellin cartel and built it into a multi-billion-dollar empire that dominated the global cocaine market. At the height of his power, Escobar was responsible for supplying a significant percentage of the cocaine entering the United States, making him one of the richest criminals ever, with an estimated net worth in the tens of billions of dollars. Escobar's power was not just based on money, but also on fear and influence. He used a simple but effective strategy known as plata o plomo, which translates to silver or lead, meaning people could either accept bribes or face death. This approach allowed him to control politicians, police officers, judges, and even entire communities. He orchestrated bombings, assassinations, and kidnappings to eliminate threats and maintain his dominance. At the same time, he built houses, schools, and hospitals for the poor, which earned him support from many local communities who saw him as a benefactor rather than a criminal. Despite his power, his violent tactics eventually turned the government and international agencies against him. A massive manhunt was launched, involving Colombian forces and U.S. intelligence agencies. After years of evading capture, Escobar was finally located and killed in 1993. His death marked the end of the Medellin cartel's dominance, but his legacy continues to influence the structure and operations of modern drug cartels.
Ismael El Mayo Zambada is one of the most elusive and enduring figures in the world of organized crime. Born in Sinaloa, Mexico, he became involved in the drug trade at an early age and gradually rose through the ranks to become a key leader in the Sinaloa cartel. Unlike many other cartel bosses who sought fame and recognition, El Mayo maintained a low profile, avoiding media attention and public appearances. This strategy helped him remain free for decades, while many of his contemporaries were arrested or killed. El Mayo is known for his intelligence, patience, and ability to build strong alliances. He played a crucial role in managing the cartel's operations, including drug production, transportation, and distribution. He also helped maintain stability within the organization by resolving conflicts and negotiating deals with other groups. His leadership style is less about flashy displays of power and more about maintaining control through careful planning and strategic decision-making. Despite being one of the most wanted criminals in the world, El Mayo has managed to avoid capture for decades, making him a legendary figure in the drug trade. His ability to survive in such a dangerous environment speaks to his skill and adaptability. Even today, he is believed to play a significant role in cartel operations, proving that sometimes the most dangerous individuals are the ones who stay hidden. Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, often referred to as the godfather of the Mexican drug trade, played a foundational role in shaping modern cartels. Born in 1946, he began his career as a police officer before transitioning into organized crime. He co-founded the Guadalajara Cartel, which became one of the first major drug trafficking organizations in Mexico. What made Gallardo unique was his ability to bring structure and organization to a previously fragmented industry. He divided territories among different groups, established clear roles within the organization, and created a system that allowed for efficient coordination of drug trafficking operations. This structure laid the groundwork for the cartels that exist today. Gallardo also built strong connections with political figures and law enforcement, using corruption as a tool to protect his operations. However, his empire began to crumble after the murder of a U.S. DEA agent, which brought intense pressure from both Mexican and American authorities. In 1989, Gallardo was arrested and sentenced to prison. Despite his imprisonment, the system he created continued to function, with different factions evolving into independent cartels. His influence on the drug trade remains significant, making him one of the most important figures in its history. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, is one of the most powerful and dangerous cartel leaders in modern times. Born in a rural area of Mexico, he started from a low-level background and gradually worked his way into organized crime. Unlike older cartel bosses, El Mencho represents a new generation, more aggressive, more organized, and far more unpredictable. He became the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, which quickly grew into one of the fastest expanding and most violent criminal organizations in Mexico. What makes El Mencho particularly dangerous is his use of extreme violence as a strategy. His cartel is known for public displays of brutality, including attacks on security forces, mass executions, and heavily armed confrontations. At the same time, CJNG operates like a structured business with strong logistics, recruitment systems, and financial networks. El Mencho has managed to build a balance between chaos and control, which makes his organization both efficient and feared. Despite being one of the most wanted criminals in the world, he has managed to avoid capture. His ability to stay hidden while running such a large operation shows a high level of discipline and planning. Today, CJNG remains one of the biggest threats in the global drug trade, and El Mencho continues to be a central figure in that power structure. Amado Carrillo Fuentes earned his nickname the Lord of the Skies because of his massive fleet of aircraft used to transport drugs across borders. Born in Mexico, he became a major figure in the Juárez cartel and eventually took control after the death of his predecessor. Unlike many cartel leaders who relied heavily on violence, Amado focused on logistics and transportation, making his operation one of the most efficient in the world. He revolutionized drug trafficking by using airplanes to move large quantities of cocaine from South America into Mexico and then into the United States.
His network was highly organized, involving pilots, engineers, and logistics experts who ensured that shipments moved smoothly. This level of sophistication allowed him to generate enormous profits while avoiding the kind of attention that violent cartels often attracted. However, his success also made him a target. In 1997, he reportedly died during plastic surgery that was intended to change his appearance and help him evade authorities. His death remains surrounded by mystery, with some believing it was not accidental. Regardless of the circumstances, his innovations had a lasting impact on drug trafficking operations.
Griselda Blanco, the Black Widow, was one of the most feared figures in the cocaine trade and one of the few women to dominate such a violent industry. Born in Colombia, she became deeply involved in crime at a young age and eventually moved into drug trafficking. She played a major role in establishing cocaine distribution networks in the United States, particularly in Miami, during the 1970s and 1980s. Blanco was known for her ruthless nature. She ordered numerous killings to eliminate rivals and maintain control, earning her the nickname the Black Widow. Her organization was responsible for widespread violence, including public shootings and assassinations that turned parts of Miami into war zones. Despite this, she was also highly intelligent and innovative, introducing new methods of smuggling drugs that increased efficiency and reduced risk. She was eventually arrested and spent years in prison. After her release, she returned to Colombia, where she lived quietly for a time before being assassinated in 2012. Her life and actions left a lasting mark on the history of drug trafficking, showing that power in the underworld is not limited by gender, but defined by strategy and ruthlessness. Frank Lucas. Frank Lucas was an American drug trafficker who rose to power in Harlem during the late 1960s and early 1970s. Born in North Carolina, he moved to New York City and became involved in organized crime. What set Lucas apart was his business mindset. He eliminated middlemen and established direct connections with suppliers in Southeast Asia, which allowed him to control the heroin trade more effectively than his competitors. His product, known as Blue Magic, became highly popular due to its purity and consistency. He maintained strict discipline within his organization and avoided unnecessary attention by living relatively modestly compared to other crime figures. This strategy helped him operate for years without being caught. Eventually, law enforcement caught up with him, and he was arrested in 1975. He later cooperated with authorities, which led to a reduced sentence. His story is often cited as an example of how intelligence and strategy can be just as important as el Cua in organized crime. Rafael Caro Quintero. Rafael Caro Quintero is one of the original figures of the modern Mexican drug trade and a co-founder of the Guadalajara cartel. Born in 1952 in Sinaloa, Mexico, he came from a poor farming background and entered the drug trade at a young age. Over time, he became deeply involved in large-scale marijuana and cocaine operations, building connections that would later form the backbone of organized cartel structures. Caro Quintero gained international attention due to his involvement in the kidnapping and murder of a U.S. DEA agent in the 1980s, an event that brought massive pressure from U.S. authorities on Mexican cartels. This incident marked a turning point as it forced governments to take more aggressive action against drug trafficking organizations. He was arrested in 1985 and sentenced to a long prison term, but in 2013 he was unexpectedly released due to a legal technicality, which shocked authorities. After his release, he reportedly returned to the drug trade, attempting to rebuild his influence. However, his freedom did not last forever. He became one of the most wanted fugitives again and was eventually recaptured. His story highlights how early cartel leaders helped shape the systems that modern organizations still use today, and how even decades later, their influence continues to affect the drug trade.
Vicente Carrillo Fuentes. Vicente Carrillo Fuentes, also known as El Viceroy,
was a key leader of the Juarez cartel and the brother of Amado Carrillo Fuentes. After Amado's death, Vicente took control of the cartel and attempted to maintain its power during a time of increasing competition and violence among rival groups. Under his leadership, the Juarez cartel faced constant pressure from other organizations, especially as new cartels emerged and began challenging older power structures. Vicente relied heavily on violence to defend territory, leading to intense conflicts that turned parts of northern Mexico into dangerous zones of cartel warfare. Despite these challenges, he managed to keep the cartel operational for many years. However, the growing strength of rival groups and increased law enforcement efforts eventually weakened his position. In 2014, he was arrested by Mexican authorities, marking a major blow to the Juarez cartel. His story reflects the difficulties of maintaining control in an environment where power is constantly shifting and new threats are always emerging. Ociel Cardenas Guillen. Ociel Cardenas Guillen was the leader of the Gulf Cartel and one of the most aggressive figures in Mexican organized crime. Born in 1967, he rose through the ranks by demonstrating loyalty and a willingness to use violence to achieve his goals. After taking control of the Gulf Cartel, he transformed it into a powerful organization with strong enforcement capabilities. One of his most significant moves was the creation of Los Zetas, a group made up of former military personnel who acted as the cartel's enforcement arm. This introduced a new level of discipline and tactical ability to cartel operations, making them more dangerous and more difficult for authorities to confront. The use of trained individuals marked a shift in how cartels operated, blending criminal activity with military-style tactics. Ociel's aggressive approach eventually led to increased attention from authorities. He was arrested in 2003 and later extradited to the United States, where he received a long prison sentence. Despite his imprisonment, the structure he created continued to influence cartel operations, particularly through the evolution of Los Zetas into an independent and highly violent organization.
Ismael El Mayo Zambada is one of the most elusive and enduring figures in the world of organized crime. Born in Sinaloa, Mexico, he became involved in the drug trade at an early age and gradually rose through the ranks to become a key leader in the Sinaloa cartel. Unlike many other cartel bosses who sought fame and recognition, El Mayo maintained a low profile, avoiding media attention and public appearances. This strategy helped him remain free for decades, while many of his contemporaries were arrested or killed. El Mayo is known for his intelligence, patience, and ability to build strong alliances. He played a crucial role in managing the cartel's operations, including drug production, transportation, and distribution. He also helped maintain stability within the organization by resolving conflicts and negotiating deals with other groups. His leadership style is less about flashy displays of power and more about maintaining control through careful planning and strategic decision-making. Despite being one of the most wanted criminals in the world, El Mayo has managed to avoid capture for decades, making him a legendary figure in the drug trade. His ability to survive in such a dangerous environment speaks to his skill and adaptability. Even today, he is believed to play a significant role in cartel operations, proving that sometimes the most dangerous individuals are the ones who stay hidden.
Héctor El Güero Palma. Héctor Palma, known as El Güero, was one of the founding members of the Sinaloa cartel and a close associate of early cartel leaders. Born in a poor region of Mexico, he entered the drug trade at a young age and quickly gained a reputation for being both loyal and extremely dangerous. Palma played a major role in building trafficking routes between Mexico and the United States, helping the cartel expand its operations during its early years. However, his life took a brutal turn when his family was targeted by rivals. This personal tragedy pushed him deeper into violence, and he became known for his ruthless retaliations against enemies. Palma was responsible for multiple killings and violent acts that strengthened his position within the cartel. Despite his power, he was eventually arrested in the 1990s and spent years in prison in both Mexico and the United States. His story shows how personal loss and revenge can shape a person's path in organized crime, turning them into one of the most feared figures in the cartel world. Arturo Beltrán Leiva. Arturo Beltrán Leiva, often referred to as the boss of bosses, was a key leader of the Beltrán Leiva cartel. He initially worked with the Sinaloa cartel, but later split and formed his own organization, which led to one of the bloodiest conflicts in Mexico's drug war. This split created intense violence as both sides fought for control over territories and trafficking routes. Arturo was known for his aggressive and violent leadership style. He relied heavily on fear to maintain control and eliminate rivals. Under his command, the cartel carried out numerous assassinations, kidnappings, and attacks on both rivals and authorities. His organization became one of the most feared groups in Mexico due to its willingness to use extreme violence. In 2009, Mexican forces tracked him down and he was killed during a major military operation. His death marked a turning point in the cartel war, but the violence he helped create continued long after. His story highlights how internal conflicts within cartels can lead to widespread destruction and instability. Heriberto El Lasca. Heriberto Lazcano, known as El Lasca, was one of the founders and leaders of Los Zetas, one of the most violent criminal organizations in Mexico. Before entering organized crime, he served in the Mexican military, where he received specialized training. This background gave him a tactical advantage and allowed him to build a cartel that operated more like a military unit than a traditional criminal group. Under Lazcano's leadership, Los Zetas became known for their extreme brutality and disciplined structure. They introduced new levels of violence, including public executions and intimidation tactics designed to spread fear. Unlike other cartels that focused mainly on drug trafficking, Los Zetas expanded into other criminal activities, such as extortion, kidnapping, and human trafficking. Lazcano managed to stay ahead of authorities for years, but in 2012 he was reportedly killed during a major military operation. His death marked a turning point in the cartel war, but the violence he helped create continued long after. His story highlights how internal conflicts within cartels can lead to widespread destruction and instability.